Do you have advice specifically for startups or rapidly growing teams? Which are the documentation gaps that are going to pose the highest regulatory risk, even if they might seem small or harmless internally?
I think kind of building off what Kyle mentioned earlier about, the design and risk documentation being at the time, when you're building it, you're not submitting a lot of those files, from the 510(k) and the quality system. Your quality system doesn't really get audited when you're in that process. But if you don't have that foundational quality system and those requirements and all that traceability in place, when it does come time for inspections or audits, you're going to be scrambling backwards to, retroactively put all of those processes in. I think a big one we see is, people are working on developing test protocols or things for their 510(k), and they're not following the kind of statistical requirements. So they're then going back and they're like, okay, you have, you used 52 samples in this as the sample size, but why did you use that? And so it's, if you don't start with that foundation of when you write the protocol, knowing those processes in place that you need to have, like statistically significant sample sizes, then you're going to be going backwards. And it's a really hard rabbit hole that we sometimes see when people, have that development way before the quality system has matured.
Yeah, I mean, I think just kind of doubling down on that. I think, one of the main focus of the quality system, especially in the pre-market phase, and which is, a lot of startups spend their time as they're getting ready for their initial submission, is really, tied into design and risk, right? And that really is created to help you understand your product inside and out, right? So defining specifications for every part of your product, defining specifications for every one of your components. And I think a lot of times companies miss the idea that eventually something is going to fail. You're going to have to get a new supplier. Something's going to happen in the manufacturing process. Something's going to happen in the market. And if you don't know your product inside and out, the process of going through root cause and figuring out what's failing is going to take you a lot longer, cost a lot more money, potentially relate to recalls, right? So really, in my opinion, this whole quality system process is to help you understand your product inside and out. So if something does fail, you can address it very quickly, figure out how to fix it, and then, get a new product on the market, create a software update or whatever it might be. But I think that's one of the key areas that the companies kind of just skip over.